Let me know. Okay, I'd like to call to order the Ottawa County Community Mental Health Procedure Performance and Quality Improvement Board. Performance and Quality Improvement Board meeting for 9/7/2025. And it appears that we have a quorum, so we can go ahead with business. Let's take a look at our CMOHC mission statement and vision statement. And I'll take a second for that. And then I will, the suggested motion is to approve the agenda for the September 8th, 2025 Performance and Quality Improvement Committee.
So moved.
Support.
So moved and support, same. We take a vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Say same, folks. Okay, the agenda is approved. Consent items, suggested motion to approve the consent of the following items. The minutes for the July 14th, 2025 CMOHC Performance and Quality Improvement Committee.
Support.
All in favor?
Aye.
Say same. Approved. Okay, and then we'll go into our first item, the presentation from Liam McConnell and Keith Morley.
Well, I'll let them introduce themselves and then.
Thank you for having me today. I am the program supervisor up at the Grand Haven Fulton office up there, and I run the multidisciplinary team for MI adults and the CMH program.
Great.
And I'm Keith Morley. I'm the Director of Mentally Ill Adult Services here at CMH.
Yep.
And I do supervise Leah, but she is the expert on DBT.
Welcome.
Is my presentation gonna?
Yeah, I don't know. So just a little background. One of the things I want to start doing, especially at this committee and public in general, is to show the community the distinct programs that we offer, the evidence-based practices that may be used in private practice, but are not required, that we utilize to set CMH apart as a unique system of care. And so I asked today that we have kind of information on our DBT program. You'll learn all about it, and how it's a distinct evidence-based practice. And while others in the community use it, they're not held to the same scrutiny. And you'll see, are you doing it right? Are you truly doing it? So I asked this to be done, and Leah's been doing it a long time. I thought this would be good to have you get to know her as well.
Great. Okay.
So just waiting for that to come online. And you should have a handout.
I need to go, how do I play that? Advance.
This thing, advance.
Yeah,
Just this thing.
next slide, yeah.
Star Trek.
Just a quick overview of dialectical behavior therapy. It's a lot of words. I speak quickly. This I know like that in my hand. So if at any time you want me to stop and pause and explain something more, I'm happy to. The overview is a behavioral therapy for severe clients. These are the ones that have suicidal ideation, suicide attempts, self-harm. There's a lot of other destructive behaviors. It's known around the world for its utility with specifically the borderline personality disorder diagnosis clients. You'll see later on it has much more. Marsha Linehan, that is the name. She is the queen bee of DBT. She discovered that normal cognitive behavior therapy, that's something that you're familiar with, was too invalidating. It focused on too much of the cognitive piece and the thinking aspect of therapy. So she incorporates this Zen mindfulness approach, and that forms the dialectic. It is an acceptance of, the dialectic is balancing an acceptance and change. Kind of like we accept who we are, we accept the situation we're in, like what we're going through, and we want to be better, and we can do better. That makes like the dialectical behavior. And the behavior changes that we want to see change that. I'll go over the 4 main modules. They're delivered continuously over about a year. It's usually not less than that. We like our people to go through 2 rounds, and you'll see how that goes a little bit later on too. It consists of individual therapy, so like a one-on-one 60-minute with the therapist, 2 hours of a skills group a week, and then phone coaching, so they can call in 24 hours a day and talk to those DBT there. I'm gonna give on the next slide a little bit of background information. I'm gonna talk quickly about the research that just scientifically validates this method. I'll talk a little bit about the treatment model so you guys know like what happens in those sessions. And then how it's relevant to Michigan, because Marsha Linehan was from University of Washington. And then how it's relevant today to our CMH program. Any questions so far?
No.
The background, so this, this is Marsha, and you will see her face if you do any, Google search. And it started in the early to mid 1980s. This is when she found that the CBT wasn't as effective for her patients that she was treating. She did a quick manual in 87, and then in 1991 is when she did her first randomized control trial. So she did a lot of research, right? She wanted to validate this to show that DBT is effective for borderline personality disorder. 2 words there, randomized control trial. Does anyone need me to explain what that is? Like that double blind, just like the queen.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
And then borderline personality disorder. Do we all have an understanding of what that diagnosis is? People that get diagnosed with BPD have a hard time regulating their emotions and have kind of characteristic traits of like an insecure sense of self. They don't know who like a strong self-image. They have trouble with relationships. There's a main kind of fear of abandonment and rejection that goes with that. So you see a lot of like, I love you, I hate you. Typically self-injurious behaviors or suicide attempts and suicide ideation. Sometimes there can be substance use also. We say dysfunction in the mental health world, but I don't like that word. In DBT, we say effective. So they have ineffective ways of coping with life. Is that helpful?
Usually requires multiple hospitalizations too,
Mhm.
as a course of treatment, usually, not always.
So then in 1993 is when this is, I'm gonna call it, this is like the gold standard. I brought some visuals. This is the book, this is what we use. It's real thick and real heavy, but more background. So in 2000, the DBT expands to help with eating disorder, substance use, other mental health conditions. 10 years later, it's a global accepted strategy and known as the gold standard evidence-based treatment for borderline personality disorders. At this point, Marsha has 30 random controlled trials on the phone. In 2011, she comes out and publicly shares that she has a lived experience with borderline personality disorder. That personal disclosure, I think, validates the treatment more. Speaking from somebody who needs it, she's able to say, this is what helped me. And then today, in the 2000s, DBT just continues to evolve. We have a lot of adaptations for adolescents, families, substance use, telehealth. And then I just got recently trained in prolonged experienced treating. And that is the first DBT kind of offshoot for trauma and PTSD. Next slide. You don't have to read this one. I'm just going to show you how substantial the research is. Okay?
You don't get your mileage unless you read it.
Yeah.
I think the important part of this reference list is that the controlled studies were not all done by her.
Right.
And that meant the American Psychological Association of a definition of an evidence-based practice, because there were at least 2 controlled studies by different researchers that came up with similar results. Dr. Linehan, to her credit, for a long time said we're a best practice until she got those other controlled studies done by other people. And she was one of the first to say, well, it's an evidence-based practice, but not really yet. And that
Right.
took a lot of
Right.
her saying, not there yet, even though, and so it is now established as an evidence-based practice. Yeah.
The next slide actually sums it up for you too. And then the meta-analyses, there's 2 on there. So
Let's
the
see.
top one is the meta-analysis, and then the bottom one is also a meta-analysis, which is just the creme de la creme of research. Thank you. That's for later, Monday, when you really wanna have some
There
fun.
we go.
So what is it?
Yeah.
So what is DBT, right? What is this hype? Go ahead. There are 4 main modules, and I will just quickly talk about them. Mindfulness is that Zen incorporation. It really is helping clients with skills to be in the present right now. How many of you are familiar with mindfulness or maybe have done some mindfulness activities or practices? Excellent. Yep. So it's really hard for our clients because they're stuck in the past, right? And like the past is over, it's done, right? And you're just living in this suffering state. And you're worried about the future, but we don't know what's happening in the future. So all you know right now is this present moment. And we teach about not clinging to it, like we don't want to hold on to it, and we don't want to reject it. So we do it like every session, we start with a mindfulness activity. It's a big component. Distress tolerance is the next module, and that is, I think of it as teaching skills for kind of these acute term crises. The big message we say in distress tolerance is let's not make the situation. So we're going to use skills to not make the situation. Emotion regulation, that's kind of for more longer term goals. Having a life worth living is also a very popular DBT phrase, which is just having that goal out there. And emotion regulation teaches people how to modulate that emotion so they can get their behavior and choices to be effective to then get them to that goal. Also in emotion regulation, we teach how to name the emotion. Surprisingly, it's really hard for people to have that language. Maybe they just weren't growing up with it. And so we teach them how to identify what emotion exactly they're experiencing and then what to do with it. Interpersonal effectiveness is my favorite module. That's all about relationships and effective communication. We teach skills how to maintain important relationships and how to end unhealthy, destructive ones. Really, it's a course on assertiveness skills. So a lot of people with BPD have a really hard time saying no, right? Because that fear of rejection, and how to ask for help. So sometimes we think, I'm going to the emergency room 5 times a week. It's an ineffective way of asking for help, but that's how they have managed and figured it out. So we teach more effective ways to do that.
I have to use all 4 of these in dealing with the state all the time.
That's what they say about you. Mike.
Exactly right. Yes,
Just a third department.
that's right.
Yeah.
So these are the DBT superstars. There's Dr. Marcia Linehan. This is a little bit about her. In 1997, she developed her Behavioral Tech Institute, which is like the training hub, the gold standard. And then in 2014, she developed this certification titled DBT Linehan Board Certification. And if you're a clinician and you have that certification, you have gone through a very, very rigorous process. I am not. It involves taking videos and submitting to a board review and like charts. It's very rigorous. Those other 2 superstars down there are Linehan board certified trainers or clinicians. Josh Smith, he runs the DBT Institute of Michigan. That's in Mason, Lansing area. If you guys, I don't know if you're from, how long you have been around, but last year we got a contract with this institute for their long residential program.
About 5 months ago.
Yep.
Just proved that.
It's CARF accredited. We use it. And then Gwen Abney Cunningham, she's also a superstar. She is the DBT services supervisor for Family Interactive Michigan. So this is just a long bio. What I'm going to highlight on this one is Gwen was the one who did our MyFast review. So that's who is going to, when he talks, she's the one that is holding us accountable to these fidelity standards. That's Ms. Gwen. One of the first certified for DBT Linehan as a clinician, and her program in Kalamazoo was one of the first. Fun little fact too, I don't know how many of you know Lisa Kassler, but she went to graduate school with Lisa Kassler. So down the bottom, it's 1999, I think, got MSW at Grand Valley. They did it together, so it was kind of cool. Yeah, it's right there, it's so wide. And then go ahead to Josh. He is just amazing and teaches skills in such a great way. I've taken all my trainings from Josh and or Gwen for DBT. Go ahead. So I had to bring her up. Lisa Kassler, in 2008, she was the one who kind of set this ball in motion here for CMH. She's very passionate about this program and this treatment, and she took the hardest of clients, the hardest of clients. She really set the standards in terms of the program and kind of, I picked up the baton when she left. Gwen and Josh were consultants at the time. A lot of the information that I have in my little binder is from those consultations with Gwen and Josh and that Lisa has. I just want to talk a little bit that we ran this through COVID pandemic during the shutdown. We ran this through telehealth. We tried to maintain everyone's sense of normalcy as best as possible. And then in 2020 is when I took over the DBT team. And then we had our MyFast review in 2025. In 2016, there was the first MyFast review. So that's when Josh and Gwen formed the team to kind of get it to fidelity. Okay, so this is the DBT timeline in practice. This is important because I want you guys to understand just sort of the flow and the rhythm of treatment for a consumer. Pre-treatment is essential. That is, a consumer is found eligible through access. Then they get on our team and they pass through me. And I'm like, maybe they have the qualifying diagnosis and maybe not. Maybe it's just when I'm reading through the chart, I'm thinking they might benefit from having some of these skills. So then when I assign them to the clinician, we kind of start talking about it right away. Some people that we get are like really eager, we manage that. And some people are like, no way, I hate DBT, I had it somewhere else, it's terrible, right? So the clinician is like working on all that.
I already had that.
Yeah, you're good. Working on all that, managing all of that. When we think about pre-treatment, it's actually when we're doing some diary cards, we're setting the expectations for them, like you need to show up consistently to therapy. You need to bring your homework every single time, right? Like we're shaping up this behavior so that it to set them up for success, so that it's a very long program. So yes, pre-treatment is usually 6 weeks. And then we start with orientation and mindfulness for 2 weeks. Then we go to the first module, and that's 7 weeks. We go back to orientation and mindfulness for 2 weeks, the next module, and then orientation and mindfulness. I'm saying that because we do orientation and mindfulness often. In between every single module, we're talking and leaving in what mindfulness is, and then the expectations. At that point, when there's orientation and mindfulness is when new people can enter the group. So it's a closed group during the modules, and then we open it up for that orientation mindfulness, and that's when people can join. We discuss it and like, hey, there's new members, or hey, somebody's graduating. So we're very transparent.
Quite an
Okay.
extensive amount of time,
Oh, yeah.
very targeted
Yeah,
for individuals that sometimes don't have good treatment compliance. So just getting them to stick to the schedule is great.
and change is hard.
Yeah.
Limited, I apologize. I'm happy. I ran some other reports. I asked IT for someone. I'm not blaming them. We just have limited data, I think, from all the computer system software changes. This is what I found, but it's not true. I actually printed out other reports, so there's more of that. I guess the biggest thing is that currently we have 2 groups in Grand Haven, and there are 6 consumers, and then there's 1 group in Holland that has 2. It used to be 3, but there's 2 now. The data that I ran since 2011, we've had 95 total people in DBT, or have been touched by people. I'm happy to update those when I can deliver them. Go ahead. So this is your DBT team here at CMH Ottawa. At Grand Haven is myself, Nicole Boyer, and Emily Shepard. Nicole has been doing it the longest with me. I was trained in 2018. She was trained in 2019. And then the other ones are, well, Emily has been about 6 months. And then Holland has Aaron, who's a little bit longer than that. Crisis and Jail Services, we have Kelsey and Rachel and Cindy. Cindy is in her master's program right now. And then the SVD team is Mark. Everyone aside Cindy is a licensed master social worker.
Question for you, the jail services, is that short term or is that also a long term program?
So we have a hard time how we're defining that, and we're kind of figuring that out. Rachel right now just sort of uses some skills to like help people short term.
Mhm.
She struggles because she's like, we're like a real like thorough program and can do it all, but it's really just kind of incorporating the language and getting somebody exposed to some of those skills. Short term.
Because some of the people in the jail system are not there long term,
Right.
but you plant the seeds and then hopefully bring them out into the community to continue the program.
Yep. And if you get on, if Gwen is standing up here on her soapbox, she will say she has a hard time with DBT informed, because if it doesn't go well, that's when the people are like, I never want DBT again, the software doesn't work, right? So it's kind of like, oh, but we discussed it with Rachel and. Thanks. So currently, yep, there are 6 people at Grand Haven, 2 in Holland. The treatment, like I said, is 2 hours a week of the skills group, and that's with other members. 1 hour a week of individual sessions, and then it's averaging 1 to 3 times a week of phone coaching, but they have unlimited access to a phone. With that DBT clinician.
What is a phone coaching?
Phone coaching, phone coaching is a brief session, usually 10 to 15 minutes. It's pretty formatted, so really anybody can be trained in how to do a phone coaching session. It's not meant to analyze, it's meant to problem solve, but just to not make that situation worse. We encourage our people to call for coaching if they're like, oh my gosh, like, my boyfriend and I are breaking up and I feel like hurting myself, right? Call for coaching then. We'll ask you briefly what you've done. What do you think you could do, right? DBT often is about what do you think you could do. They might need some skills on just for try those and keep yourself safe. Yeah. And so it kind of is one of those touch points maybe. It's easy to say that you understand skills when you're in therapy or in session. DBT is all about generalizing them and applying them out of the. So we want them, when they call for phone coaching, we're like, yes, right? Like this is progress, because they're actually, oh my gosh, hey, I need some help. And they're effectively getting that help.
And skills for your teacher.
All the skills. Marsha likes acronyms, so what would you like me to explain?
It's like a skill set that you would have to use if they call that.
Probably then, with that example of somebody breaking up with their boyfriend and wanting to self-harm, we would do like the distress tolerance skills. That's a crisis skill. And we teach when do you know you're in a crisis, right? You have this urgent sense to like solve the problem right now. You feel like you don't know what to do, kind of a scale like you're on a 9-10. Stop is one of the main skills that we use in DBT. It's my favorites. And it just is do steps. Take a breath. Objectively look at the situation and then proceed with the question. We literally will print out stop signs for some people, or like a stop light. I said also like the caution, the yellow caution tape, like visualize that stuff before you do that. Because in stress tolerance, it's just not making it worse. Tip is another skill. That is one that uses changing your body chemistry to sort of activate that parasympathetic nervous system. Dive response is a big one, the mammalian dive response. Marsha says to put your head in a cold water bowl, sink, cold water. I'm not a fan of that. So ice, if that works though, do it. Maybe ice or like some cold compresses here, cold shower works. It's a way to just mechanically change that nervous system from that fight or flight kind of in parasympathetic to give a pause. We don't wait the situation.
I'm a huge proponent of the DBT model and stuff, so I really love the work that you guys are doing here. Just kind of curious though too, and what ties into this group here is like, are you looking at any outcomes measures or things that you can look at to get like the positive results? Are there specific, measures that you're looking at to see?
Yeah, great question. I do want to follow up with you guys on some of that data. We do measure It's called the borderline symptom list, BSL-23. So we do have a beginning measurement of those, effective. And then we do it we're supposed to do it 6 months and then at the end of treatment. As far as long-term data with people that have finished or not, dropped out for some reason, I don't remember.
Well, we could look at crisis contacts, hospitalizations.
Yeah,
Those things.
and I don't know if it's always challenging to do this, but do you, like before and after for individuals, it's sometimes challenging to do that. See that.
We have a whole graduation program, and it's kind of cool because when one person graduates in the group, everybody gets a little more motivated by that.
That's
We
nice.
have a sash, we have a diploma. It's kind of a big deal. It is a big deal, so.
Do you have individuals that do graduate, but then require coming back for refreshers or anything like that?
Yeah.
Too, so.
Definitely.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for doing this work. This is not easy work. Okay, and thank God for Marshall Lenahan, because there was really no effective treatment at all for this population for the longest period of time, so it's great. Paul sort of asked the question that I was gonna ask.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't really ever really discharge anybody because of the nature of the disorder. So you're probably available to people ongoing, would be my guess, as long as they're willing to be involved.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. That's really good stuff. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for organizing, I'm from a DB background,
Oh,
so
okay.
this is like, oh yeah, okay, now
Oh,
yes,
good.
thank you.
Yes.
This is very helpful, the way that you organized it.
And so one of the things I wanted to keep to do, is just to kind of show you, not go through
Yeah.
each page.
Yeah.
To the extent the fidelity review is.
Right.
So all of that stuff then gets evaluated in fidelity measures. Are you doing what the model says?
Right.
And I think Keith, you put in there, can you just describe what's in there?
Sure.
Sorry, Leah's done, I
Yeah.
can show.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So what Amanda is gonna pull up here is called the Global Organizational Index. And this is actually the document that Gwen used when she was here for the DBT MyFast review in July of 2025.
The MyFast is the group that does, there's different ones for different evidence-based practices in the state of Michigan. There's a MyFast group for DBT, there's a MyFast group for integrated dual treatment, there's a MyFast. So this is the state's attempt to say, you have fidelity. And we have one of the experts that does it in our state. So it's also- Oh, we're doing it.
Looks like girls.
It's, yeah, it's in there, so,
Yeah, right
Ah, there it
Yes.
is.
yeah.
Thank you.
So as Dr. Bashir said, I'm not gonna go over each question, but these are all the questions that Gwen asked during this review. And then we had to look within the organization to make sure that we're meeting all these standards to work toward fidelity. Looking at it from a public mental health system versus a private practice doing this. I will highlight some of those things because we are held accountable for how we're running a program. So for instance, this first one, it talks about there has to be a commitment from the whole agency. It can't be just Leah and the clinicians that are working with her that are doing this. It has to be from the top down, from Dr. Bashir's all the way to somebody who might give transportation to a client that needs to come in for DBT. We standardize things like admissions. So they have to have a qualifying diagnosis. They have to also be able to get to treatment, and you can help as a team to get them there, but they have to commit to that. With it being standardized, that means that across the state, everybody that is offering DBT in the public mental health system is doing it the same way. So theoretically, somebody could go from our CMH over to Kent County and be able to understand what the program is and just pick up and start there. In the public mental health system as well, there is an emphasis on individualized treatment. So that's why those individual sessions that Leah was talking about are so important. Obviously, it's part of the DBT program, but that's also where we really work with someone to be able to make sure that these are your goals. This is how we're getting there. And then we use group as a modality to help them get there, as well as that individualized treatment.
What if everyone in the group does not progress at the same rate? Do they work collaboratively together to try to encourage one another, or do you treat them as individuals? Trying to get them to proceed along your path?
They usually don't proceed at the same rate. It is a lot of kind of group dynamics, and then in the individual sessions, we'll kind of try to face up some of that. Like maybe we call it therapy interfering behaviors, not doing homework, and just not showing up, maybe just tired and sleeping. So in the individual therapy sessions, when we would spot that and address it and help them to not keep up, but to be present. There have been times that it just isn't the right timing for some people. Maybe like medical issues come first. So we say, you are missing a lot of these, skill truths because of the medical assessment. Maybe now it's not. What would you like to do? What's priority for you in? And I'll say, yeah, this is just a little much for me. And then if it's other things, just like not paying attention and not doing their homework, we can leave it. We don't really want to let anybody fail.
But like you said too, it's amazing, the group dynamics can be, they can be very helpful, they can also not be so helpful, but a lot of times it will be, what are you doing? Come on, you're supposed to be, I did my homework, why didn't you? And so then the group will bring them along, kind of by themselves. And then we can supplement that again with the individual sessions and really work on maybe removing a barrier or helping them find transportation to make sure they can get there.
So when you look in Keith's handout, one of the last pages has the 12 areas that are listed there for the organizational index. So it's something you can, after the meeting, look at and go back and see that. But it shows you the comprehensive nature of what's looked at, from program philosophy to how you're doing it to training. So I just thought I'd highlight that you can get a summary of those categories on the last page.
And kind of just to summarize this whole
Oh, there it
document,
is.
feel free to read it. But because we participate in and utilize things like the MyFast reviews, our QI committee, they also are part of helping us review, make sure that we're doing what we're supposed to. There's also the weekly, it's not coaching calls, what are they called? Consult group that Leah and her clinicians, they call in and they talk with Gwen is the leader of the group. But then there's also DBT providers from other CMHs that are on that consult call. And they can get ideas from, hey, this worked for us. Maybe you guys can try this. Or we had a really tough client, they kind of debrief. So that we have that support for our clinicians as well, so they can continue to provide DBT at the highest level. And we constantly are evaluating. Leah has to do evaluations every 3 months, and then the team has to do one every 6 months. So it's a very intensive review of the DBT services constantly, and it's always, hey, we can do this better. This is what I think we should try. And the group really does have voice as well to make sure that they are comfortable with doing this and making sure that it is effective.
I think we just had an evaluation. We're waiting for the scores. We'll show you the scores.
I think it's important to distinguish that in the private system, this can't happen.
Right.
CMH really is the only system that can effectively do this. The private system, this diagnosis is an access to diagnosis. It's gone. They're not gonna pay for it. Insurers aren't gonna pay for it unless you find a comorbid disorder. You find another disorder that exists alongside of it. What's gonna happen is that you're gonna start using evidence-based CBT, which is not nearly as effective as this is. So the public system is really where it's at.
Yeah, and there are many private clinicians that will
They can
say
do it.
on DBT,
Right,
but they're not subject to that.
no, insurance isn't gonna pay for this.
The organizational review, because they may be in private practice themselves
Yeah.
or a group of them, and they're not gonna, and they may participate in the training.
Right.
But it is more costly to do these evidence-based correct things correctly.
Right,
And it's a distinctive. It's one of the reasons why we wanted to highlight it today.
that's why your fidelity things are so important to make the case.
Yeah. And, you know, we'll bring in out other data that says, did it work? Right? That's the next set of data to know, but you can't really evaluate DBT as effective unless you're doing it within the fidelity of the model. And so, are you doing it right? Then is a better predictor of did it work versus, as Leah said, a form of DBT, or DBT informed, or,
Right.
you know, people given a worksheet in private practice, oh, have good luck, it's DBT. Well, no, this
Go
is,
try this.
this is, I mean, how many week program? There's a lot of weeks. And so, without the system's ability to do this,
A couple of quick questions.
Yeah.
Do you serve children at all or you don't?
This is just the adult.
Just adults?
There is a DBT group that Family Services is running.
Oh, okay,
It was not part of the fidelity review because this one was specific to adults.
okay. Oh, I lost my second question, because of your answer. It'll come to me.
I have a couple of things here though, too. I mean, just to respond to your comment about it's costly to run these things, but upfront it may be costly, but on the other side of it, if you're saving hospitalizations, that is good for the individual themselves, but it's also it's saving money in that aspect though, too. I do have a question, and you may have touched upon this earlier, but I was curious about like, how does an individual, what's the process of going through to admit somebody to the DBT program? I mean, how are they identified? Are they coming from multiple services within, they're already open with CMH? Do they directly come through the access department into the DBT program?
I'm trying to think, I know I can speak for Grand Haven, trying to think about Holland. Yeah. What is access? New people come through and get considered when they meet eligibility through access.
And is it by diagnosis primarily, or?
No, it's it's more clinical.
Mhm.
I hate saying that, but it's more like when Autumn and I look at the cases and we look at these presenting factors and we think, oh, this person could benefit from DBT. We
Right.
let the clinician know specifically, think about this, you know, think that there may be this access to diagnosis that wasn't identified in that access screen. Give it some time, and if you think that they would benefit from DBT, then let's get them going in pre-treatment.
I think it's a combination of diagnosis, locus score, and clinical judgment.
Right, yeah, yeah. Part of the reason I say that is that you could probably make a ton more of these, like
Yeah, we could.
programs
yeah,
that
we could,
would
yeah.
be effective, but that
DBT
makes it
factor.
challenging as
Yeah.
to how do you identify specifically who's gonna most benefit from that then too, so.
It's usually a constellation of issues that converge together that make them a likely candidate
Mhm.
for effective care through DBT,
Yep.
self-injurious behavior, personality, turbulent relationships and such.
Mhm.
But there's a form of DBT that's effective for anybody,
Mhm.
right? And there, even though there's a Zen foundation to it, it's not an overarching part of the model where you have to adopt
Right.
a Zen belief system.
Right.
And so there are other kind of religious worldviews that can be in substitute to that particular module, like prayer as part of some of that, or
Mhm.
things like that. So there's been some adaptations to it over the years, but it really is, an effective treatment for folks with these constellation of, issues.
Other part of my question was related to, do you have a capacity, like, could you serve?
Mhm.
Yeah. as you can see, it takes up a lot of their time. And both of my clinicians have about 54 on their caseloads right now, and that's just, you know, the people. I reached out to Josh and Gwen on Friday, and Josh emailed me back Saturday, and Gwen emailed me back today. So I'm just saying. Josh said standard was like 10% of one's caseload at CMH is considered, could be DBT, so that's fine. Fine for each clinician. In a private setting, like there's not a lot of just DBT, you know, delivery. His is one. His clinicians have about 20 to 25.
And they, in his situation, they don't have additional clients who are not receiving.
Correct. They're an
So,
institute.
Yeah. Thank you for.
I noticed you've got a wide range of issues that you deal with. Eating disorders might be a totally different issue to deal with than someone who's doing self-harm, but I guess it's a form of self-harm. Do you have we always look for recovery. Do we have a success rate for treating people with these types of disorders? Is the recidivism that you find?
yeah. I should have brought an example of a diary card. So in a diary card, every week, the consumers have to rank, and it just depends on what the clinician decides, like a 1 to 5 for like urge to self-harm, a 1 to 5, like urge to restrict eating, a 1 to 5 sadness. Did you purge today? Yes, no. There's a lot of behaviors that gets tracked in a weekly session. And so maybe at the time when we first started out with somebody, we would consider that eating disorder more of a self-harm. It's definitely self-invalidating. So we would kind of put it on that little different scale of like a target for the treatment.
Dan, can I hold you back?
And then we would probably move it down to more like a life qualifying at the end. And the therapist knows that they're targeting that, so we see them decrease. Yeah, I mean, not right away, obviously, but overall, all those behaviors are targeted behaviors that the therapist wants to see. And it's nice, those diary cards are just weekly.
So look more for successes in the moment.
Yeah.
Rather than
Right.
a long term.
Yeah.
So that's, again, like with self-harm or going to the hospital is a big one.
Right, thank you.
The utilization of the ER
Mhm.
is
Huge.
costly both to the system, yeah, and the person often feels invalidated after they go there.
Mhm.
So when we're looking at small goals, it'd be, all right, what can we do to have you not go to the ER? And it might be go from 5 times to 2 times a week. That's still a victory.
Yeah.
And then we'll work on the 2 times, maybe to no times, unless, you know, obviously you're in emergency, but those are the kind of successes that we're really looking for. And then hopefully it comes all together at the end.
Yeah, and we can start getting that data now that we have a PCE product in auto. We can start cross-referencing a lot easier. The client hospitalization or crisis contacts, decreases, increase. How do you define success? And it's my personal worldview that with severe and persistent mental illness, there's no cure. You're just in remission.
Right.
And you hope remission lasts a long time, like leukemia or other disorders. But it's always present, you know, through the lifespan, with more or less intensity, just depending. But we can, and this is why having this discussion here is important, say, okay, how do we know? I mean, yes, the evidence is overwhelming, but what is the snapshot for us? And a lot of times the narrative case studies of this person went from here to here, and finding ways to aggregate that data and get a sense of what that really means in terms of quality of life and treatment effectiveness is, I think, kind of our center of excellence model, the next step we have to move to gather that success rate.
That's great.
And I do appreciate our attempts to do that, because when there's threats to our public mental health system, that this is the way that we can show the effectiveness of the services that we're providing.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much. Greatly appreciated, and thank you again.
appreciate the work that you do.
Can I address the
Yeah.
elephant in the room?
Yeah.
How do you deal with losing one of your patients?
Mm.
The person you counseled for months? If they succeed in self-harm and wind up taking their life, how do you as professionals handle that? I don't know whether you've experienced it or not. but-
Yes, we have. Yeah, and it's still sad. I think we lean on each other. A lot of leaning on each other. We have that consult group with DBT, you know, I have a supervisor here that is, I know if I need anything, he's there, has my back. It's really validating and helpful to have somebody who has also gone through that, as you know, right? Those shared losses, to be able to talk about it. How about you?
I think it's really being able to talk about it, and like we just said, it's the shared loss, it's being in a group that might have gone through something like that, or being part of that group has been.
Do we have a critical incident team here? We do. Would that be appropriate?
Sure, for staff when that happens, you've got debriefing.
You were just at Benjamin's Hope for a visit. I don't know whether you're aware of it.
Yeah.
One of the residents there
Okay.
passed away, and they had a service last Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a part of the business that we're in, of, you know, helping people, and, you know, our lives are impermanent, and death happens, and it has to be something that we deal with from time to time.
Yep. Again, another kudo to the work you're doing. And we really appreciate that. Okay, if we could now move to, is there any old business? Michael, you were gonna look at a charge for this committee.
Yeah, that's being submitted to the exec
It
committee
is,
this
okay.
week.
Okay, great. Other than that, anybody else? Okay,
Quick say Leah's gonna leave, but she has to go see a
Thank you,
client,
Leah.
so.
thanks again, Leah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you all.
By the way, Leah, how long have you worked for us?
You know, I got someone on the crisis team in March of 2016. So what is that, 9.5 years?
Okay,
And I'm grateful every day, but I love this job.
great,
All the people here, so.
you bet.
Keep it up.
Take care.
Yep.
So on the access data,
No, new business, yeah.
what I started to do, since we're meeting every other month, I had the staff put together aggregate data for 2 months. So that you're not a month behind.
Yeah.
So this information will cover all the way through August, July and August. And then when we meet again, you'll be up to date as well. And so the first one I'll highlight is the crisis contacts. In the 2-month period, we had 219 crisis contacts. 29% of those did result in an inpatient stay. And we have a breakdown in the charts here of the different types of dispositions, who went into the hospital, who went into crisis residential, what was a diversion using other kind of crisis stabilization, who went into the partial hospitalization program before a hospitalization versus step down. As you remember, one of the things that happened a couple months ago is we closed the Robert Brown Center and joined agreement with Hope Network, which was our crisis residential program. So I've been keeping an eye on our inpatient and crisis realization utilization. And I'm gonna send you, since I'm talking about it, to one of the pages that shows the line graph. So we're gonna be going back and forth, keep going. One more. And one of the things I'm worried about is inpatient went up.
Yeah.
Crisis residential went down.
Yep.
Now, when I first looked at that, I went, uh-oh.
Yep.
Negative impact. We looked at all of the admissions that went into the inpatient. And all of the ones were not suitable for crisis residential. They were either involuntary or had severe altered thought. Because I was worried that, oh boy, if this trend continues, all I've done is force people into another level of care that's just as costly, more costly.
Right.
So let the board be advised that we're looking at detail every month. Who actually went in? Could they have been diverted? What were the reasons why they weren't? So I was satisfied with the result of who went into the hospital. Now, crisis residential utilization went down because we had one less option.
Mhm.
But I do not believe that it was a result, the inpatient going up was a result of not having as much as that option.
Okay,
Because I'm really looking at that relationship.
right.
Now, we did see an increase in people going to partial before going into the hospital, which is what we wanted to see happen
Mhm.
in lieu of crisis residential. You know, and then we have utilized other crisis residential programs.
Will we be able to see year after year trends?
We
I
can do
think
that.
that'll be important, just,
Yeah,
there's
so what
certain
we
months
have,
where crisis seems to be a little bit more
Yeah.
evident than others.
in our current trend line, we stop in January.
Yeah.
But we might be able to, we can do multi-years too, have a
Yeah.
little bar graph or
Yeah,
something.
yeah. Just to see if there's any information that comes down there.
Yeah, you know, is there seasonal trends?
But I'm sure you guys are.
We are, but it's a good thing to have. We're getting better at what, you know, one of the things that's missing in our reporting is which population group.
Mhm.
We have ages, adults, kids, but when you look at this report right now, I don't know if that was an IDD adult
Right.
individual that went in. I don't know if that, and the other thing is, we're not necessarily in this report tracking overall days. We have admissions, but not length of stay, so we're gonna add those features too.
Right, good.
We had that discussion this morning in our leadership group, things we wanna add to this
That's great.
particular report.
Mike,
But I just wanna let you know, I noticed the change. Uh-oh,
how many crisis beds do you have then? Contracted?
total,
Yes.
you know, that's a good question. I think we have existing like 3 different contracts that can have up to 15 people that we share with everybody in the region.
One of the issues with Robert Brown was that you had to pay for empty beds.
That's right.
Do we have empty beds that are available that are sitting there that haven't been used?
At any of the other places?
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if we tried to admit somebody to a crisis residential program and was denied and there was an empty bed.
Right.
But we're not paying any longer
Right,
for unused beds.
Yeah, and I just, cause your point was about like people going into the hospital, that probably validates that they were appropriate hospitalizations.
Correct.
If you had open crisis residential beds.
Correct. So they would have been in the hospital regardless, is my point. And, you know, Chris Madden and Tim that look at this data, and I know the adult services look at it too. I'm very clear of us working with our partners to make sure that what I'm saying is 100% accurate. Like this person had to go into the hospital because we didn't have a crisis residential bed. I want to know that.
Right.
And I have been satisfied, because I'm kind of stubborn when I'm looking at it, that this increase and decrease of those 2 things were not a direct result in Robert Brown Center beds. Now, just so the board knows, we are repurposing Robert Brown Center to be we had the whole keep the license, and it's gonna be utilized as a residential placement for folks with adults with IDD with significant behavioral challenges. We're gonna try to create a program where we have 1 person in, then maybe 2, that we can't have served anywhere else in the system, or we're sending to other states. So we're repurposing Robert Brown. It's just not, and you'll get more of that. Finance Committee, full board, and next PQI as we look at those.
Who will operate that?
Hope Network in conjunction with us.
Will we be, go ahead, Tom, you're gonna finish. Well, is that gonna be in conjunction with other counties or just our?
Just
county?
us,
Good.
And that's using their,
long term,
using their staff, not the.
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, about time, huh?
Yeah.
Right. So it's expensive, that's one more. And, but more on that, but I just want to let you know, on the crisis contacts, we did go over our kind of target goal of, being at 25%.
Mhm.
And I'll be looking, we do a detailed dive in each admission, who's open, who's not with us. And as we figure out more of a trend, we'll know more the next time we're reporting. Cause then I'll have 4 months of data. And if that trend continues, then I'll have to do another level of investigation to figure out what's going on. Okay. So the other one I want to bring your attention to in the report is the one that shows, says 131 eligibility as there is. Now, I should probably do it in a different sequence, but what this is telling me of the 131 people that made it past our screening, and I'll tell you that number in a second, 91% of them were opened up for services. So, and you can see where, you can see primarily where they were and the disability group or the population group that they're in. And you notice that IDD adult had 4 people referred out. And that's kind of higher than we usually have by percentage of not meeting eligibility.
Mhm.
We have had an influx, not many, 4, of people asking for our services when they're not at the right age yet, or they don't qualify yet. But we do an analysis of who's referred out, especially for that group. And you can see that autism had 22 people eligible and 3 not referred out. And that is, and then MI adult, look at that, 53%, 53 were eligible and 3 were not. So once you get past our screening tool, and I'll talk about that in a moment, so far our screening tool is almost a predictor of eligibility. Because if you get to a rate of 91% or over 75 or 80%, then your screening tool is doing a good job saying, yeah, we think you're us. Now, if you go back a slide, I wanted to do it in sequence. We had 339 get the screening tool. So it's about 38% made it through. So now what I'm gonna do is we're gonna look at the screening tools to say, because it seems to be a good predictor of who gets in, is it overly restrictive in terms of who makes it through screening? And so my next level investigation, now that I have at least almost a year's worth of data, is to say, are our screening tools too restrictive? Now, when you look at a managed care environment, it's usually, this is about what you would see, 40% get through and things, but we're talking about folks, that weren't part of the groups that just call for information. These are people, 339 of them, that said, we think we need to screen you. There was a whole bunch of folks we knew we could refer you out, we could send you over here. That was part of that 500 group over there. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna look at our screening tools and ask the question, are they overly restrictive or not? Now, I have no national benchmarking to compare our screening tool or other CMHs to this. We're the only ones collecting the data in this way. But I have asked our regional partners to look at this, like, how many people go through your access department and don't make it to assessment? And we all have similar regulations, but different ways of doing it. So I'm letting the board know I have enough data to say, gee, once you get past screening, you pretty much get into CMH. Remember, a lot of people said you don't get in. Well, maybe what they're saying is you don't get past screening. So I'm gonna look at that with my team and see where we're at with that, which screening tools we're using, how we're determining it, and if we need to make adjustments or not, and then be able to defend our screening tools, which most CMHs use a similar tool, but anytime I see that, I want to look at it. So once you get past the screening, you're pretty much getting into services here.
So you say that most use a similar tool,
Yeah.
but there's no standardization.
There's no, we're not jointly reporting as a state of how many people are going through screening, getting to assessment in the way that I would like. And so to me, it's like, who are the people that we said no to that made it to screening, and what was it about them?
But your methodology varies, but also your metrics vary. So you could have another region using the same methodology, but having different standards of of, evaluating someone. So you really need to do both of those things, right, in
Yeah.
the region.
Yeah, and so think about what we are in terms of sharing this managed care function, right? This is a managed care function in terms of determining eligibility for services. Now, in the mental health code, we are to do it for the general fund population regardless of how the state does that. But with the Medicaid population, if procurement goes the way that they have it written, we wouldn't be determining eligibility at all for the Medicaid population, some other person.
Right.
And I doubt they're gonna be sitting in a room with local board members doing this type of analysis for our local community. They'll have more aggregate data, right? And so these are one of the distinctives of a community mental health that sometimes we don't highlight enough. It's like the public can come to this meeting, they can ask these questions, they can give us these things, and you have the charge through me to resolve them. So I'm just alerting the board that I feel it's warranted looking at our screening process to see how are we doing with the amount of people that don't make it through to assessment. Now, if you ever met Carrie in our assessment department, I'm telling you, she's gonna err on the side of letting people in, but I want to double check that.
Michael, are those people that aren't making it, does it include like people calling, hey, I want to set up a dentist appointment?
Yeah.
Or it's everybody that's
Yeah,
calling?
it's like part of that 500 group where it says other contacts like information only, refer to a community resource. Like we get calls like, are you the health department? No,
Right.
Right.
we log it though, right? Refer to a primary treatment team if they already have one in the
Right.
community. And so we do a lot of work of referring folks out as we're determining, and of course, our navigators that we have in our access division will hold on to folks while we're determining that. So if we think it's questionable, we're kind of figuring out what do they need. Now, we're blessed in Ottawa County where there are other resources that people can have. And so if they're not on Medicaid or things like that, we help them out in other places.
Is there value in having consistency in screening tools amongst the PIHPs?
Yes, and there are certain things we have to do, like a locus, which is a tool
Okay.
we use, and some of the
Mhm.
tools that we use to determine eligibility.
Okay,
But there's a part of it that's clinical judgment,
okay,
and it's hard to make that an objective measure.
gotcha.
But there are ways to try to do it.
Mhm.
And so what I'm suggesting is more of a case study on one of the months of who didn't get in that weren't called the wrong place people referred out, the 500. But out of the 339 there that we
Right.
said, let's kind of screen them
Right.
and see if there's any constellation, I'm using that word a lot today,
Yeah.
of issues that can then turn into alternative resources for
Gotcha.
them if we don't.
Gotcha.
And so it's an exercise, and my staff has probably done it 100 times, I just haven't done it.
Right. Good.
But that's the value of looking at this stuff.
Mhm.
Well, you'd like the system to be fair, so that the same standards are used here as in Kent County or Muskegon.
That's right.
So that you don't have to shop around and move to find the services that you think are appropriate.
Right.
Mhm. And so you get a snap of crisis and inpatient, you get a snap of screening, a snapshot of who's getting in. It leads to deeper questions for us to bring back and show you, and that's the value of the process of doing it. I don't think, and I keep saying this, and I know the public may watch this meeting, I'm not trying to disparage private practice providers at all. They're
No.
needed in our communities.
Absolutely.
But they're not sitting down having these discussions in their own practices. Who gets in, how we determine someone, what services they get. It's all done by, do I have an opening and will the insurance company pay for this person?
Right.
Are the two primary, and there are other measures. And there are many very ethical private practice clinicians
Mhm.
but they don't have the time to do this. And you need a system that does this for the most severe. And so, again, I'm on my soapbox, but another
Sure.
distinctive,
Important.
and that concludes that report.
All right. And then, the procurement process?
Yeah, what I'd like to do, if you don't mind, is put that near the end, so we get through the
Okay.
other things, or I can feel we could be admired in
That's
the,
good, that's good.
yeah.
Then
Oh, Maya?
CCBHC. Okay.
Social rec first.
Social rec program.
Yeah.
Yep.
Social rec. We get it.
Does everybody know Chelsea? Director of Community Programs. Anything controversial?
Yeah. We'll wait for Amanda. Okay, so, the social rec programs. So, as you guys know, we have been tasked with some additional data, so we'll be able to see that here in this report. Next slide, Amanda. So I think we're all aware of who the 4 social rec programs are, but in case you're not, here they are. But one of the pieces that I think we wanted to highlight here today was participation thus far. So social recs provide you can hit the next slide, Amanda. Social recs provide monthly narrative each month to us. And on that narrative, it has unduplicated CMH members, unduplicated community members, along with a list of their activities, how many people participated, both CMH and community members as well. And then there's also, you can hit the next slide, Amanda. There is also room in those narratives where they write successes over the month and challenges over the month. So I have taken a look at all of the reports, so for this fiscal year thus far, they haven't submitted August yet, that's coming here shortly. But as you can see, I've broken it down in each social rec program, so this is extended grace.
Which is the Momentum Center, folks don't remember.
Yes, so,
What's their actual
yep,
name.
they've changed their name, but that's actually been their name.
Yeah, we made them clarify.
Yes.
Our social rec program is called Extended Grace. It's not the Momentum Center.
Got you, thank you.
Yep, and so this is extended grace, and I think a big piece of this is you can see that because these programs are funded by millage, that millage dollars are reaching the community, because as you can see, the peach color are community members. And I think Dr. Brashears and I have had many conversations where we kind of want to nail down more of the data of how many people are attending more activities per day. So we could have, so if we know Joe is going to bingo and a support group and coffee hour, right? Instead of just, oh, maybe Joe's just going to coffee hour. So just having more of an idea and a grasp of how many participants are attending each activity.
Yeah, in essence, what we're gonna do, just like with an evidence-based practice, is develop our own fidelity measures.
Yeah.
In the past, we said, RFP for social rec, tell us what you're gonna do, we approve it, gather some general information. Now I'm looking into number of people that participate in more than one activity per day. As a way to figure out, like, okay, someone just coming in the morning and going, and they're counting for the whole day. And that will give us a sense of some of this stuff. And so this looks at the number of unduplicated individuals per month. And there's actually an average per day we have.
Yep.
You can see the number of
You can go
people.
through the next. I don't know how in detail you want me to get, but I've broken down each social rec program here for the next few slides. Obviously, I think each social rec program is very unique in itself and who they serve, and they're kind of niche. So like you can kind of see the variety here. Next slide, Amanda.
So like in Pioneer, it's primarily CMH clients.
Yep.
You catch that.
You can go to slide 2.
Yeah.
Yep. So here is the average number of participants per activity. So I actually took this from the SR lab. I'm sure that Dr. Brashears actually created.
Village Steering Committee.
Yes, those good old days, you know?
Mhm.
And so, so this is from that survey. Granted, this is an older survey, but I think moving forward, I'm going to resurvey them because I think that there's a lot of, it's warranted. There's good information. A lot has changed since the last time we did distribute that survey. And like I said, I think part of that will include how many participants are attending more than one activity per day and having a better breakdown and understanding of that.
Yeah, which activities do people actually attend, the actual
Yeah.
number?
Is it possible to count the number of program hours
Mhm.
client hours?
Mhm.
Because one program may have a program that lasts for 4 hours.
Right.
Sure, and Joe could attend all,
Versus
right?
coming for coffee and spending 15 minutes.
Sure, yeah, I know, I think that that's a really valid point. And I think that as we develop and update that survey, that's something we should consider too.
Yeah, and we'll get, that's the data that's needed. It's average per activity, number of unique clients. You're gonna see in a moment, there's some other data we're collecting. I'm very interested in what type of social rec programs for which population group they identify are the most attended and helpful. And which ones nobody seems to go to. And so why are we paying for that? You know, everybody likes bingo, by the way, but you know,
Yeah, bingo's a big hit.
the point is having a more fidelity, us shaping what we want the programs to look like instead of here's money, do good.
Yeah, and I think that when the millage started, you know, we weren't quite sure what data to collect
Right.
back then, right? And then, because I think we were figuring it out as we went. And so I think, you know, it's been a decade now and we have a good grasp of the millage, but what social recs were, I could, when were the social recs? Were they?
Data and stories. Read them both.
Yeah.
Quality of life
Yes.
measure we put in, we're waiting the results on that.
Yep, next slide, Amanda.
Let me ask you a question. The one slide showed the number of community participants was much larger than the
Yes.
number of CMH clients.
Yeah.
Was the millage not originally intended to provide social rec programs for the consumers who lost them when the system cut out its
Yeah,
programs?
it was cool.
And part of the millage, the sales pitch was the community is gonna rally together and provide
Mhm.
additional funding to replace those programs that
Correct.
were lost.
Mhm.
So we didn't have Can Do anymore, for example.
Right.
Or
Or Be-
none of these are work-related social rec programs. But, a person who went to Can Do and then was faced with nothing to do with their life now has an opportunity to go to one of these programs. Is that the primary intent?
Yeah.
And do we put more emphasis on a program that does that as opposed to, Evergreen Commons is great, but we don't support Evergreen.
Yeah, you know, when I
Commons.
was part of the millage steering group, that's how I first got back here at CMH. The question I was trying to answer was, are the social rec programs doing what we intended for them to do via contract? And so we developed a way of saying, do they meet the requirements? And the original intent was to both address issues in the elimination of programming and to offer opportunities for people in the diagnostic groups of IDD, mental health, and substance use that might be moderate, that don't have any opportunities.
Mhm.
And so it's always been a two-pronged approach. And so that's why I'm interested in knowing of the community members that are not our current clients, do they affiliate to one of the major population groups? Because if the answer is no, and they have no self-identification of autism or IDD or mental illness, well, who are these people or substance abuse? Are they just hanging out? Are they volunteers? Because we don't want to disparage community members coming, but I like to see kind of a balance of that. And some of the results you'll see that it's lopsided for CMH clients and clients that are not. Extended grace, it's more external, non-CMH clients versus current CMH clients. And so each of the four have a different kind of flip on that. Most are primarily serving the people that we have open.
And Michael, another piece of that
Yeah.
whole pie is the funding, the village funding isn't necessarily what is supporting community members who are
Right.
not,
So,
there are other sources of funding.
Yeah.
One of the things I remember discussing back in the day was integrated opportunities, and I think, we wanna be kind of careful as we're moving, really looking at this, looking at where the millage funding is going, and the benefits of integrated programming.
Yeah.
Kind of balancing
And-
all,
and-
there's so much to.
And definitely with home and community-based standards and community inclusion rules, we want opportunities where the general public are participating. They did not want, especially with IDD individuals, to be in congregate settings or diagnostic specific settings
Right.
only. So this was a way to do that. And what I'm suggesting is our analysis is just beginning
Yeah.
in terms of some of the nuances with that. I think this slide here is one of the things we added this year. Of anybody that goes in, we now can collect information with releases. You'll just let them know. You can go ahead and tell them what this is.
Yeah, so the social rec programs are starting to provide some information for us to be able to run through our EMR to see if there's any crisis or inpatient hospitalizations. This data is from October to the end of June. And so I don't have all of the information, but the preliminary data is showing that only 4 individuals have had a crisis contact over those months and 0
Out
inpatient.
of all the programs, yeah.
Out of all the programs combined, so,
I mean, that's a great
yeah,
talking point,
yeah,
Mhm.
because you're mitigating an escalation of symptomatology.
Correct.
yeah. And so, as the data comes in, we'll be sure to run those reports. I'm expecting it since the end of the fiscal year is coming up, that I'll have all that information. And I can come back and present that to you guys.
Now, Mr. Pessimist here can say, well, it could mean that the most vulnerable population is not using the program.
Correct.
And they are the ones who are in crisis. They are the ones who are being hospitalized because they haven't been in
Sure.
one of these programs.
Yeah.
Correct. Correct. Or is the program accessible for folks that might
Mhm.
utilize crisis?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Right, so it's a
Could
good,
benefit from it.
yeah, like, okay, can they benefit from it? For sure, is definitely that. And we're gonna have we developed a quality of life measure. And we'll get results of, do the participants feel that this is improving their quality of
I
life?
think I presented that at the last, in July.
Oh, did we?
So, yeah,
Okay.
yeah. And so I've started to receive some back. I didn't think I had enough to really report on.
Oh, the
but-
measure, yeah, not
Yes.
the results, yeah.
Yes, but I'm expecting that to be at the end of this quarter, so,
Because we're hoping the answer is yes. There's an increase in quality of life.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
You
No,
remember from 20 years ago, people advocating, why are we not asking, have we made your life better?
That's
As a quality improvement
That's
measure.
one of the only ones that needs to be asked, yeah. So we're just at the beginning stages of getting our information, understanding it, looking at the impact of it. And so there's other things.
yeah, you can hit the next slide. So I think, social rec, I've toured all of them. We meet quarterly, which is on the next slide, and I can expand a little bit more on that, but I think folks have a tunnel visioned idea of what happens at social rec, but there's so much more that they can get out of participating in social recs. Like I said, each one is a little bit different, provides different opportunities. And so these are just a snippet of what I see on their reports of what they're doing. ICAS does some really cool stuff, like Rec Connect, and like the venue that they're at just offers really cool opportunities. When I toured it, I was like, holy smokes, like this is really awesome. So, and they have like a professional chef come in and do cooking classes, which
Where's
is really cool. I know. Yeah,
I know,
it's really cool. So
We got Monday Night Football, maybe.
Yeah.
it just is, it's a really good opportunity for folks to participate in. And next slide, Amanda. So just historical context. So I have adopted social recs about a year ago now, and then I went on maternity leave. And then I came back, and I'm just now starting to kind of meet with them, learn about them, start to learn on the data that we're wanting to collect. And so with that, we've brought back quarterly meetings. I think COVID obviously caused some hiccups there, and they stopped for a little while. But all 4 social recs with myself and some of my staff, we meet quarterly, we discuss challenges, barriers, hey, what's working, what's not. And we kind of communicate any updates on data that we need or any confusion, because like I said, some of these requests are brand new this year, and they've been reporting since, 2016 a certain way. So there's been a little bit of confusion that we've had to clear up and, but I think we're heading to the right track and these quarterly meetings help. And so that's been great. We've, administered a site where they can upload all of their narratives and their invoices to make things a little bit more streamlined. And so we're really just trying to be a little bit more organized and transparent. So, next time. And we touched on it, the quality of life survey datas are coming in, so I'll report on that, but yeah, that's my report thus far.
We wanted to visit, should we contact people ahead of time or show up, or what is?
Yeah, I think, why don't I ask, like, what's the best way to organize that, and I can let you know.
Okay.
Where are the, I know where the Momentum Center is. Where are these other programs located geographically?
Sure. So Rec Connect is near, it's kind of by Allendale, isn't it? Like right by, like kind of down the road from Grand Valley.
Okay,
Pioneer, their main base is in Muskegon,
okay,
but they're very community based, so there's not really a hub to
Yeah.
like go to
Sure.
and see. And then Heritage Homes is in Allendale, I think, correct? Yes.
so you have over in that side, I'm thinking Denison, Hudsonville area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
And we added some other opportunities that weren't in this
Mhm.
cohort, the YMCA and other
Right.
things that will,
Yeah.
to see how they're
Try
impacted.
as well.
Yeah.
Stuff, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. Good.
Now Pioneer operates, I forget the name of the program.
Lark.
Was it for senior citizens?
Oh, Life Circle, is it Life Circle?
Yeah, Life Circle.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they also they do other things, right? In the area here, I see
I believe
I
so.
see their truck, their buses driving around.
Yeah, they're very community oriented, like they're traveling around a lot of places for their programs. Which is why their main hub is in Muskegon, but they provide opportunities throughout the county, so. Yeah,
Okay, if we can move to the CCBHC bonus payment update.
There's like two documents, really, two different discussions related to that one.
yeah.
We're just
we-
doing both at the same time.
Yeah, so as a CCBHC, part of that is being eligible for a quality bonus payment. There's quality measures. I didn't list all of them. They're in the wonderful handbook that's online. I can send that to you.
That's okay.
But these, yes, I'll spare you all. But these 6 are the ones that are tied to a quality bonus payment.
Yep.
And you can see in the chart below, this was just a screenshot from the state of the breakdown of how we got there. There is a redistribution pool, so when CCBHCs don't meet all of the measures, then part of that money goes back into a pool and then it's distributed. So after the QBP award and the redistribution, we brought in by over $500,000.
That's great.
I will say that this is just fiscal year 24, and so there was a lot of time figuring out how to embed this into Avatar, how to communicate this to staff. And I will say this isn't a knock to Avatar, but it didn't do the best in capturing data and these measures. Otto is much more well set up to be able to do so. And so I do expect that this amount will increase and be
Good.
better tracked, which is exciting. So hopefully we can see these types of numbers come through in the future. So.
And when you look at the general areas in both these attachments, it shows you, again, it's almost like a fidelity model
Mhm.
on a funding source. And did certain elements come true or not? And believe me, there are folks obviously that have been doing CCBHC longer than us that they did not receive the funds. How do I know that? Because there was money to redistribute, right?
Right.
And so when you look at some of the categories, think more of the overarching goal of the funding source and not a distinct program or distinct clinic. You know, it's overall,
It's everyone. And
people that were eligible diagnostically, these things occurred, right, to chart them. And that's what the other document's looking at too, is the actual measures
yeah.
of that.
And the good part is, a lot of these things are already embedded in what the clinician or the staff person is already doing. And that's the ease of Otto is they're doing their day-to-day operations and they're gathering this data for us, which is really great. And I'm excited to see how it improves since we've expanded for DCOs as well, so those will be included. So we'll have even more opportunities to bring in more bonus payments. And
So-
then, oh, I'm sorry.
Question about that, though, just how you access that data then, because from my understanding, all of this information before was coming out of the web portal from the state, the Care Connect 360. Isn't that where it was located, where the?
This data,
Yeah, I mean, it would, because you could run reports out of Care Connect 360.
so this data is all from within our
Yeah,
EMRs.
okay,
Yep, and so we contract with IDH, and they have been a godsend in helping us to be able to understand how to capture these quality bonus payments, what kind of workflows should we be
Right.
implementing, how should we be communicating this to staff? And they have gone into both EMRs, Avatar and Auto,
okay,
and to be able to gather this data.
okay, yeah. With the switch over
Yeah.
from going from PHP to CMH, I was just wondering, and I know that the information is no longer going to be entered into CC 360, Care Connect 360.
Correct.
Yes.
So that's gonna challenge about how you get
Yeah.
access
So-
to data.
Excuse me, this board just approved a renewal and expansion of Dr. Darren Luber's and IBH's contract to help with this stuff, and they're working with many folks in the state because of what Paul's saying too. State's changing the whole CCBHC funding model. And there's a lot to work out still. But when you look at the measures, it's really, what is a good CMH? And are folks getting medications, the psychotropic medications? Are they doing these things? Is there access to crisis? And so the Michigan CCBHC program looks a lot like what a good CMH would do. Are you using evidence-based practices? Timeliness of treatment. Now, a lot of other states don't have these measures. And so CCBHC across the country has been helpful, believe it or not, to look a lot like Michigan's system. Debbie Stabenow developed it, the federal level with other folks. Our state was involved in it. We have the most CCBHCs in any state in the country per capita. And I can't help but think that CCBHC is everything that if we were funding the system with general fund appropriately, we wouldn't need this. In fact, all of these are almost identical measures to other things we already do.
Mhm.
So am I glad we have CCBHC? Great. But again, it's not just a simple funding source, it's a fidelity model and it's expensive to manage and to run. I mean, the amount of time we spend just, are we doing it?
Right.
But I was proud of the group because the manual has changed several times. We're trying to we had a computer system that wasn't spitting out the right information. And boy, my goodness, we got the quality bonus and in spades and we met all of the criteria. There was a couple areas we have to improve on, I think there was 3. But it's to show this committee and the board and the public that these things are not, I mean, these are very sophisticated obligations that are, what is a good CMH?
Right.
That's how I view them, and how do we keep it going?
Right.
And, you know, CCBHC as a sustainable source of funding, we'll see. Whole
As
things,
a board, we should be proud of this.
yeah, very much so.
Proud of the
Yeah,
staff and proud
Yeah,
of the
I'm
people that-
was very happy to see that email. And then I won't take up too much time talking about CCBHC anymore, but the next little bit, we had an audit back in May where the state came and there were certain pieces of the CCBHC requirements that they pulled up, and provided or completed their audit on. We did really well. Out of all of them, if you want to scroll down, Amanda, there were 3 that we did not meet. 2 of them regarded veteran services. We do provide services to veterans. We provided treatment plans, we provided IPOS, everything. However, there was, we kind of, I guess, lacked the evidence of coordinating with the VA. And so we have come together at leadership and ops to be able to discuss how can we better coordinate and track because we are doing it, how can we track that we are doing it? that we are referring to the veteran navigator, that we are referring to, the VA itself. And so we've updated our EMR to be able to better track that. The other piece that we did not meet was, regarding our training, and it was just older adult training specifically, just that piece. And so at the end of this year, we, I believe, are going to be moving to Relias, and they support a lot of CCBHC training. And so once we get that on board, we will meet that criteria.
Okay.
But overall, they interviewed 2 clients and 3 staff while they were here. And they raved about our health educator, just throwing that out there. They loved him. So,
How
but
many do we have? Health educators?
we have 1. We have 1.
Wow. Wow.
So, yeah, overall, it went really well.
Great.
One for how many CCBHC recipients? What's the?
For the whole organization,
Yeah,
for
yeah,
all of, we got
right, right.
1,
Yeah.
not 10, 1.
Excellent.
Pretty busy guy.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, if there are no other comments or questions, thank you, Chelsea.
Yeah.
We'll move to the BTRC report. Amy.
Yes.
Does everybody know Amy?
So my name is Amy Avery. I'm the program evaluator here, and I'm part of the BTRC committee. And the BTRC, it stands for Behavior Treatment Review Committee. And that consists of many different members and includes a psychologist, Denise, she's our BTRC chair, Dr. Francois, who's our medical director, Brianna Fowler, our recipient rights officer, and then Matt Vanderhyde and Leah Osterhaven, and Teresa LaHaye, well, she has left now, but she's and then myself. And what we do is we look at behavior treatment plans that have restrictions on them. They could be intrusive or they can be restrictive. And just to give you an idea, intrusive is more like using medications to control behavior, and it doesn't really match their diagnosis. And then the restrictive is like having one-on-one supervision or locking cabinets like in a kitchen because you don't want someone to go in there and boot stuff and then risk choking.
Right.
So our main goal in the group is to try to fade these restrictions because we don't really want them to have to be on restrictions. But we know it's not going to work for everyone, but we want to try. And so when we're looking at behavior treatment plans, we're looking at the rationale of why they're using these restrictions. And then when we're able to remove these restrictions, we want to make sure that there's a positive intervention component in place to help try to encourage the good behaviors so they don't have to go back to having restrictions. And then we also have to have a justification of why they need these restrictions, and we need data to show this. And then we also address the behavior changes we see, like if the changing of the seasons or anything, try to find the antecedents of what's causing these behaviors. And so we meet monthly with the various clinicians that have put these restrictions into place into these behavior treatment plans. And then after they present to us, we decide if we approve their plan or if we want something to be changed in it. Or if we decide, hey, they have met their goal, we can discharge them from our behavior treatment review committee meetings. And so now I'm going to go over the data of like through the period of January 1st, 2025 to June 30, 2025. I make this report semi-annually. And so I broke it down by the different various groups. We have DD, that stands for developmental disabilities. And we have child and contractual child. And currently right now, we don't have any. And for the adults, we have 56. And then there are 30 contractual, and the contractual ones are the ones that are out of county.
Okay.
And then for MI adults, we have 3. And for the MI adult contractual, we have 8. And so throughout that whole 6-month period, we reviewed 97 consumers. And then for discharging, for the intellectual developmental disability group, we had 4 that were discharged, 1 moved out of the county, and then 3 had their restrictions that are no longer necessary, so we're able to remove them. And then for MI, unfortunately, we had 1 that passed away. And then for new consumers, it was for the intellectual developmental disability group. There was 13 more. And then health and safety, and these are people that review, like they need something like a gate belt to help transfer them, stuff like that. They consider that a restriction, so we have to review it to make sure it's appropriate. We had 2 of those. And then during that whole time period, there were 77 consumers who remained the same.
So on that, with the 86 IDD adults, that's about 35 to 38% of our overall residential group or people requiring a restricted plan.
Right.
And starting to keep track of, well, is that good or bad? You know, but it's a lot. 13 new.
Yeah, are these individuals who are primarily in specialized residential housing. So then we have the HCBHC requirements that say you can't, you have to have access to food 24 hours a day.
Right.
What if you have compulsive eating disorder where you have to lock the food up to keep them from eating it all?
Yeah, we gotta create a plan.
Yeah. But you create a plan and then that becomes part of the PCP. And then the group home can use that as the rationale
Right.
for having the food locked up.
Right.
Correct.
And they'll still get criticized when someone comes in and
Correct.
inspects.
Right.
Yes.
Or provide access, figure out a way to provide access for the other residents within the home.
I know there was one clinician that was trying to make sure there was appropriate food out, because there was a person with severe allergies.
Yeah.
And so they would try to make sure there were snacks out that they could easily access, so they wouldn't try to go for something that they're not allowed to have.
Ooh.
All right, the next part that we look at when we meet is the physical intervention. And this is the data that we get from the recipient rights officer. This comes from the incident reports. And this is the use of physical management, which is like physical holds that are MAT approved. And as you can see in our graph, the red indicates like how many consumers. And then in the blue, it's how many incidents there were that required physical intervention. And it's kind of amazing. Really, there's only been one person who's kind of consistently on this, and then just for 2 of those months. And then you can see how much it has really decreased.
Yeah.
And I know
It's the
it,
use of physical holds,
Oh, yeah.
not any MANT technique or
Or
technique, right?
Yeah.
right. And so, yeah, we've seen a lot of decrease, but it may change, you never know, but it seems like the staff at that one consumer is really getting a hold on it. And they really do enjoy working with her. So hopefully it'll go down even more.
Yeah, and we're double checking the numbers because when she first, I'm like, no way.
You really wonder.
No. I thought Paul would catch that instantly.
It is.
2.
Yeah.
So now that I know that it's the use of a physical hold,
Right.
what's reported, what's not, but we're reaching out just to make sure. I think it's relatively been consistent with the same particular person, but one that's worked in the residential side, I was like, wow. That's like world record. So anytime I see a low number, we celebrate it, we trust but verify. And so we're verifying the number, because it was a little low and Amy's like, no, really, it's this, you know, we're looking at every incident report. I'm like, okay. But it's good.
But yeah, and we're also looking at this, we're trying to look at the antecedents, like what happened before this, and then we also record like the time.
Right.
That they were put into these holds.
Right. Excellent.
Yeah, we kind of track that. See
Good
if there's
tracking.
any patterns.
Any questions?
Thank you.
Yeah,
You're welcome.
so I'm last and I'll be brief.
I really want you to take a deep breath before you start.
So,
I'm actually gonna dip
Thank you.
so I can get.
First of all, thank you.
right. So
Thanks, Amy.
one of the themes of this committee meeting was CMH distinctives. We looked at an evidence-based practice, we looked at social rec millage data, we looked at CCBHC, we looked at this. It strikes me when we're putting the agenda together, this is exactly all of the elements that would be lost if the current procurement plan goes through.
Yeah.
If the current plan from the state goes through, I will no longer be looking at behavioral treatment data at all. That's a delegated function to me. I would no longer be looking at all of the previous data related to evidence-based practices unless we're a provider only and we choose to do that. So it wasn't just by accident that we put this agenda together in a certain way today. And I hope that the committee understands or that these are, if we're not looking at these behavioral treatment plans, each one of them, monitoring them, that's not a billable face-to-face service as a provider. That is a managed care function.
Right.
For health and safety. And the amount of time it takes to go through this. Thanks, Bonnie.
Thank you, Ron.
So if you get an opportunity, you can watch the hour-and-a-half thing I did on Friday with Alan Bolter, the Associate Director of the Board Association, on an update related to procurement, the PHP procurement, and where we're at. The highlights are is that some PHPs and some CMHs in the system have filed both an injunction and a lawsuit. The injunction was to stop the current timeline of the PHP procurement, meaning applications, I think it's September 29th, they might have moved it to October 5th, they're moving dates around, that whoever wants to be one of these provider has to send an application by them for consideration. The injunction was to say, because we have litigation, we're also filing. We think it will do significant harm to the system if you allow the application process to go forward. And so we're waiting, and we could get it, unless, I don't know, maybe you've heard something, Paul. We could get an answer any day from the judge saying, yes, the state has to stop the process until the resolution of the lawsuit.
Haven't had a hearing on that yet.
I'm not sure. I know it's been submitted. The injunction's been submitted. I don't know if there's been a hearing yet.
Typically, they would have a hearing before they would issue an injunction.
Right, so I'm sure that will have to take place.
They may give a TRO, temporary restraining order, but
Yes. So the second part was the injunction, and I sent all this out. You sent to everyone, but we tried to explain this in the video, is a lawsuit that actually says that the procurement process itself is unlawful. It violates the CMH rights of autonomy to be able to choose its regional entity partners as outlined in the mental health code. And it does not create contiguous, in the same way, kind of governance of mental health in local regions. It's a mega system. And so there's a lot more to the legal argument, but that's the primary legal challenge, is that the state actually didn't have the right to bid out the current system. Now, the state will say hogwash, but that's what the state's doing.
but when they set up the existing LRE system, they went to the legislature and got that approved
They did.
before they implemented it.
Yeah, one of the things that Alan says in the video is that everything is backwards. So to make this happen, regardless of what the state wants, they have to get approval by CMS.
Yeah.
And if there are potential changes to the mental health code or any other law, they have to go to the legislature. And so why didn't they do those steps first and then have it ready to go? You don't put in the RFP, you don't put in an application for who to provide the thing if you don't even know if it's going to be approved. And so the sequencing on this is way off. At least in the other attempts to kind of change the system, there were legislation that was introduced. We may not have liked it, but it was very transparent. You could see it, right? This isn't the case here. So other things to report related to this, there still has not been, even though the people were supposed to submit questions to the state about this, the bidders, so to speak, the responses back have been delayed now twice. And it looks like it's gonna get delayed even more. I don't know if you're.
Delayed by the state.
Yeah, like that. They're supposed to give us our answers by the 5th of September. We're still waiting. And a lot of the questions were related to some of the issues that people may or may not have with their strategy, along with the organizations that want to do this having some specific questions. One new development that I didn't know is that it's our belief that the state will allow multiple bidders for each region. So we were told it's going to be 3 regions, 1 for each region. Now we're being told, no, they may award the contract to multiple organizations in a given region. So you might have 3 in each. or 4 in each, all the health plans.
All overlapping the same territory, or could you
Yes.
carve out a territory?
No, you cannot carve out a territory. You have to pick a whole region. So if you're in region 2, which is the mega region that we would be in, you have to serve all 33 CMHs and 44 counties, right? It's the bulk of the thing. And there could be 3 or 4 choices for people. So now we have the LRE.
Gee, I wonder who they will be.
Right, and so then we'd have to figure out, okay, our consumer is now picking Blue Cross Blue Shield or Priority or McGillicuddy or who. So the idea of condensing for administrative savings is completely out the window if that actually occurs, multiple PHPs in region. And I think I was saying to you, Paul, that's a new development. I didn't.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that either.
Yeah.
I was aware that one could submit for
All
multiple
the
regions,
Yeah.
but not multiple within one region. So
Yeah, so Blue Cross could have said, I'll do 1, 2, and 3. We didn't know, and say region 2 or 3 or 1, you could have 3 or 4 of these people. How confusing is that?
yeah,
Right? If that's the case, keep the current system. So besides the lawsuit stuff and us doing more advocacy that you can watch, there isn't a lot of change. I've started my own little campaign. If not 10, then 0. If not the 10 PHPs that we currently have, then go to 0.
Right.
We can go to 0 because the state of Michigan has no requirement to have a PHP.
Oh, but does CMS have one though?
They do
I
not.
thought part of their waiver was it had to be administered through, the funds had to be administered through a PIH.
It is not, and is done differently in some states. In fact, the CCBHC program itself is going to be completely managed by the department starting in October, cutting out a PHP to do that. So obviously, you can have a Medicaid program, the CCBHC, that's administered by the department. We could have 46, it would be like 1996 or 1999. We could have 46 contracts, Medicaid and GF, and the state serve as the managed care app, Now, the likelihood of that happening is not likely. But the philosophical point I'm making is if not the 10, then 0, because it doesn't make sense to go to 1 or 2 or 3 regions with multiple people in the region. You're not even doing what you said you were trying to do, which is to have 1 per region and have administrative savings somehow. So if you hear that I've been saying that, that's why I'm saying it. Like, you might as well restore and, reform the current
You
regions.
said that at the last board meeting.
Yeah, and not try to change it. The system. Now, I am one that used to support a 1 PHP.
Right.
However, it didn't, in my thinking, didn't disconnect the CMHs from the region. This does. There is no managed care relationship under the current proposal with the CMHs to these regions. We will be just a service provider unless they change how they're going to do it. So access, I don't know. Maybe we'd have a contract with the region to do access, but it would be a fee for service arrangement, getting reimbursed somehow of doing that for them, but that's a managed care function that they said they could not delegate.
but you still have to provide the managed care functions for the general.
Everybody else. I have to still stand up the entire organization, customer service, access, contract management for non-Medicaid services. Things we have in grants, things we have in general fund, things we have, CCBHC, some of that stuff. So there's a ways to go, but the clock is ticking. And that's what's making it anxiety provoking. It's like closer and closer to when they're gonna award it. Theoretically, they could award this thing in February to start the following October. We're gonna change the entire system in less than a year. So I don't have too much to add besides that, because you can watch it. I was thinking like, what,
More and more of that.
but it struck me today that everything that we were talking about is exactly what we could lose in terms of the Medicaid population, besides some of the programs we directly operate, like DBT,
Right?
right? But then I'd have to be at full risk for those.
Yep.
So if our expenditures exceeds the rate that we get from the new region, and this county is not gonna allow me to use county general fund
Right.
to fund deficits in Medicaid programming. They've made it clear. That's what the pooled ISF is for, other local funds. So what I've been telling staff is, yeah, we gotta exist. We may change if this goes through. But it has significant issues like behavioral treatment tracking or all of this stuff. Residential services, I'd be saying, good luck. I'd have no part in it whatsoever. I spent several hours last week and this week trying to figure out how to remedy a solution for one client to make sure they get the services they want. Do you think somebody in this mega region is gonna do that for our local community? Nope. They're gonna say, I don't know.
There's a documentary reference at the LRE meeting called The Shake Up.
Called the what?
The Shake Up. It is a documentary on the state of New Mexico's move to privatization and what happened. I have not seen it yet. It's been recommended. It would be worthwhile for us to look at it at least. Good. Okay, you good?
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. What is on the agenda here? So now we'll move to public comment. There's nobody here. Is there anybody online? There's nobody online. And then I'll adjourn the meeting. All right, thank you for everything, guys.
Yeah, the small TV worked well.